Hola, hola. I'm Trek with 2Ks,
And I am 3D, and welcome to Metaverses The Other Side.
brought to you here on the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. Just a heads up, this episode is before we had the idea of bringing the Twitter spaces to the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. And so that's why we're talking about the stuff that we're talking about in this episode.
It really just goes to like mostly unique things that Wizards of the Coast with the D&D branding has came up with. If you're using stuff with D&D branding, things like that. But basically, there was leakage of OGL 2.0, and that's when we found out that a lot of the terms that were to be believed or thought or understood in the original OGL apparently weren't as they seemed, or no longer considered the same. We're not everyone's entirely too sure about that. And there was very specific things mentioned that would involve NFTs, um, open-ended gaming systems, and even just like hosting static pages of like character sheets. But it went further and was like some of the terminologies that are used in the D&D system, stuff like roll check, uh, defense check. I think some of the other ones I was seeing by some people was like the word strength, dexterity, the way speed is used in reference to character movement per distance instead of how most gamers look at speed as in like who gets to go first in a round or something like that. And some of this really freaked out people. And I say some of it because there was a portion of it that was normal, but then there was a lot of it that was just like pretty abnormal, especially for something with the name Open Gaming License. And even like in the original Open Gaming License, they have various different points where they say this can't be, well, it says it can't be revoked, but it does talk about, there's language in there about access, and Wizards of the Coast gets to decide what has access and what is accessible in future generations or after the fact. And basically, what we saw in the leak was basically they were denying access to the entire original OGL if you had produced any content after a certain day.
All right, sorry, bro. I realized that I had the wrong recording going on the other device, and then you know what I just learned just now, literally. I'm trying to connect the what's the joint called? The Bluetooth to the phone, and so what I realized is if you don't have the Bluetooth connected beforehand, before you jump in, the way that the Twitter app permissions work is the app takes control, but for whatever reason, it won't allow the Bluetooth to be able to use to work as the mic and audio, which throws it off for whatever reason because the Twitter app takes the control of your mic. So as opposed to having to deal with like dropping the whole thing, trying to come back in and all that, just gonna be holding the phone the whole time. But anywho, you was making some headway and some good points about the whole OGL and like things that have been going on in the community. Give me one more second because I think something else is going wrong. All right, sorry.
No, bro, so it's all good. This is why like I think we were on like a third or fourth one. I said I had switched to an actual physical wired headset. Although you might not have a phone that has a 3.5 millimeter jack, but because I had noticed before when I would be using Bluetooth, because Twitter does this check every so often, it checks to see what mic, if the mic it's looking at is still connected, and it's kind of weird how the app has a lot of permission access to things that shouldn't have. And even if you deny it access to things, it still has access to these things. And when you plug in a physical mic, it stops doing that check, which, in my opinion, makes the space's experience a little bit better. But also, like, I would have problems like when it would do the check, it would cut off my Bluetooth, and then I'd have to, without leaving the app or anything, I'd have to turn off and on the Bluetooth headset itself to get it to resync to still be used. And it's just because of how the app works. It's terrible. But it does give them a lot of control. And I see we got Ernest in the house. That is what's up. Thank you for coming in. Sent you a mic invite if you want to come talk and discuss on this one.
What's going on, lady? Okay, so it's just gonna be handhelds and stuff like that for right now. The recording's going good on the other side, so we're gonna push forward. So jump back a little bit. This is Metaverses the Other Side, brought to you here on the Builder DAO Twitter Spaces. That is me and 3D, who are the two workhorses kind of behind that one. As far as the Builder DAO, basically we built some stuff over on the Uplift Metaverse, and we have built a whole plot, like we each got our own plots, but like the big things that we're doing as far as like the Builder DAO plot itself, what we've done for Spore Baby, making the first NFT faucet in a metaverse, put together a website on IPFS that is distributed and decentralized, as they say, that has a list of tools that you can use to build Web3 type things, or, well, let's say metaverse and the other things that are incorporated nowadays in Web3, such as smart contracts and NFTs and things along that line. And we're talking about at the no code, low code level, as well as like code ready for folks who actually know how to code. Those are a number of the things that we are doing. And then we have some other ideas of some things that will come out over time. But I just had to throw that out there because I don't want people to think we just get on here and then we just talk a bunch of nonsense, especially if this is your first time hearing what we're talking about. And this is like, well, who are these dudes and what are they doing? We are doing stuff. That's the point. And that's why we have these conversations that we are having, because no one else seems to be having the conversations that we're particularly having, because everyone seems to be a little bit more focused on the speculative side of the space. And I'm not saying money isn't a good thing. It's just, if the tech does what it's supposed to do, like, the money should come. But that's a whole nother like thought process onto itself. Nonetheless, we also do rebroadcast these episodes for the Gentleman of Crypto Network, which comes out on Friday, 11 p.m. Bro, I had a whole like fight yesterday with my editing software for some stuff. I gotta tell you about that one later. But had to throw that out there. Shout outs to the folks over at Gentleman of Crypto for giving us the opportunity to do the rebroadcasting of the Twitter Spaces over there. And so that is all of my housekeeping for right now. I will do it X amount of minutes later on. But nonetheless, yes, getting to this thing. So I'm going to jump back a little bit. So I get tagged in a friend of mine, George Pullen, tags me in something where he does a little quick mention about this whole Dungeons and Dragons thing and the OGL thing. Now, I know of Dungeons and Dragons, but I didn't know about the OGL stuff. And I remember I was talking to 3D like a number of months back, and we were talking about something in relation to what Minecraft did, I think either right before or when it went under Microsoft. And it was about the whole thing of how the ownership and like the derivatives and the private server stuff goes, where like even if you created something, Minecraft would still claim ownership to it, which then means by proxy, that means sorry, not Minecraft. Minecraft would claim ownership, and by proxy of being a sub company of Microsoft, Microsoft then owns it. And so I shared the post with him from LinkedIn, and I was like, bro, is this the same thing that we were talking about in relation to blah, blah, blah. Again, at the time, I did not know OGL, which is open game licensing, was like 20 years old. I thought this was like a relatively new thing. And then later on, as I kept seeing more things pop up and I was digging into a little bit more, and me and him are going back and forth, I'm trying to learn a little bit more on what is the OGL stuff, how is this playing out in the tabletop game as well as just the gaming industry, and how we understand IP and game development, as well as how it plays into brand expansion and royalties. So this has literally been like a weekend change of me and him back and forth. I'm like, yo, I seen this video. Hey, did you see this thing that somebody said this? Hey, and we're going back and forth about what we're seeing come out around this story of, and if you don't understand who the players are, that's another thing to kind of put in the context. Dungeons and Dragons is a board game owned by a company called Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast is a sub company to Hasbro, which has like, I think probably the top, maybe 10 board games. Dungeons and Dragons is a game that is probably 40 years old at this point, if not older. Am I wrong? Because like it's
Late
70s.
60s. It came out in the late 60s.
Yeah, so all right, like it's older than 2 generations, y'all. I need y'all to understand that. It's older than 2 generations, okay? And then OGL comes out, is that in the 90s? And the idea behind OGL was third-party creators who wanted to make their variation of the core Dungeons and Dragons game conceptually. So it has fantasy, it has these different metrics to it for how you develop characters. It has the whole thing of, fantasy type characters and like certain rules as a tabletop game. That starts coming into play. Dungeons and Dragons then just starts doing sideways of a licensing deal, but in the form of this thing called OGL, where it's like a Creative Commons, but for profit. And it's been around for pretty much like 20 something years at this point. And so the recent situation was they wanted to do an upgrade, which would change a number of the set dynamics of the business relation as well as the community development of the brand and the derivatives of Dungeons and Dragons. So what is it? Going from like I think it was either closer to 0 or at least under 5, dealing with royalties, to where they're like, hey, we want 25% of your royalties if you make like over this amount of money as a third party creator. Or
hey, yo, can I jump in real fast?
yeah.
So yeah, originally it was 5% if you made over $1 million in revenue. Now it's as little as 25% for making it's $250,000, and it's not even in profit; it's in revenue.
Right.
While the original, if you made, I think it was $500,000 in profit, they wanted like an additional up to 15%. But the whole point of the OGL was it caused dynamic evolution of the game, and it still holds the D&D branding, and the people who are building it for them are not getting in trouble, but are kind of being like, oh yeah, this is what you should be doing. Just like how Minecraft used to say, if anyone can build for us, anyone can build something that can attach to it. It's not open source, but you can still build up. So they were getting free R&D basically.
Facts. So I also want to put this out for the folks who listen to this later on. This situation is not just a gamer's issue, or is not just a game developer problem. And I was trying to explain this to some other folks in regards to like what this means for bigger tech companies or other industries that deal with having a product that they then say, well, we'll open it out to others, but we'll only do it under this kind of contract, which arguably works to hinder or really take financial advantage of third-party creators of that product, right? And as 3D was making a point earlier about things like the IP, even behind some of the words and the names of things in the game, right? Like they're not giving up the IP. This is not even about giving up the IP. This is about them changing the contract in a way where it will be more of a disadvantage long run to the third party creators, because at the end of the day, like if I make it's crazy some of the I heard some scenarios for some of the YouTuber folks that I was listening to, and they were like breaking it down. Well, let me give this one example. Under new contract, I make more, and that's crazy. They lowered it all the way down to $250,000. Like that's a low threshold, honestly. But let's say I make 300K. I gotta now give you 25% from the gross revenue, not from the take home. And then on top of it, you're gonna then take all of the creative stuff that I did, and then you're gonna market it out your own way, because that's the other part of the contract, which was, yes, the company that, or the third party creator that makes whatever that derivative is of Dungeons and Dragons does not give up the right of Dungeons and Dragons to use their content in their own way. So it's just like, you're trying to get me on both sides, and then you're not even going to be fair about it. Like, damn.
Hey, bro, I want to add in. So one of the things in this new OGO, which actually from my understanding is active right now already, you build anything, you have to submit it to them, and they have to then review if it's suitable enough or not suitable enough to be in the license, to have basically the ability to use words. And one of the examples that I could think of was basically there used to be these things called a rogue sheet. It used to be like a generic character sheet that, like it would have been like one of the first major ones used that was actually released by Wizards of the Coast or whatever. And it allowed you to take your character from tournament to tournament without having to like change much of anything. Well, there used to be people that traded these sheets. So like they would build a sheet of their character and then put it online so people, clout. I want to see what this person has for their rogue sheet or whatever. And if you was to do that now, and you had ads on your page, well, now you're subjectable to being forced to pay. And at the same time, if everybody who builds anything, so I build a character for D&D to play, I have to now send that in to Wizards of the Coast D&D to get approval to be able to use my own made-up character. And if they like it, they can use it in a future release of D&D in any shape or form, where I won't get any credit and I won't get any profit or any money from their profit they make off of it. My bad, bro. Go on.
No. You okay. You're right. You're hitting the nail on the head. But I want to also try to make this relevant to the folks who are like, wait a minute, I thought this show was called Metaverses the Other Side, and all y'all talk about is metaverses. Yes, we talk about metaverses. So let me bring it to how it relates to metaverses. And this is only one sector that it relates to, because again, like the real issue here is that it is a open source license that is a for-profit model based on derivatives. So it doesn't just limit itself to being in the gaming industry. This could be in, all right, go for example, metaverses. So let's say, and granted, we play in the Uplift, which is a derivative, aka a private server of Minecraft, right? For how I don't know what Minecraft calls their version of OGL, but the basic idea, at least for how it plays out right now, is that Minecraft pretty much doesn't mess with anybody. And excuse me, Microsoft has not reached down from the, the fintech, not fintech, but like the tech titans realm of Olympus to like push Microsoft to do anything really. Granted, a couple months ago, they did like kind of really out of left field, arguably, make a public statement about how they're not encouraging any of the various private server um, folks to make or sorry to integrate NFT related stuff within what like within Minecraft, which was kind of really weird considering that Microsoft is definitely looking to move towards NFT technology integration, as well as there were already projects that had their own derivative version of Minecraft that integrated blockchain technology in the form of NFTs and stuff, aka Uplift, which is the one that we deal with primarily. There's also a Ethereum one, and I don't remember the name of that one. I know you got the name on 3D.
I don't have it on me, but the Ethereum one is the actual reason why they did that. They actually went after that Ethereum, the people who minted that one. They actually went after them because there's two stipulations Minecraft said. The NFTs can't be in the server, and anything that is of within the bounds of Minecraft cannot be in the NFT. For example, a couple of years ago, there was a person who is an artist, and they took screenshots from Minecraft, edited it, added onto it, adjusted it, made actual pictures, and sold it. And Minecraft sued them. And when I say Minecraft, Microsoft sued them and said they don't have the right to own those images, even though it was using a third-party shader pack, even though it was none of the original textures from the game were even in or visible on the screen. And they actually tried to say they owned the pixel situation that is Minecraft, which they end up losing that last part, but they won the other two parts of the lawsuit.
So there you have it, folks. That's this is within the Minecraft ecosystem, and as 3D had put me onto like a number of months back, if not more than a year back, there are more private servers of Minecraft with their own derivative of brand to them than there are people playing like the official Microsoft version of Minecraft, right? The point to that is it's a metaverse, it's a virtual reality, blah blah blah, right? Interchangeable words right now, but the idea of if Microsoft or if Minecraft decided to be like, well, we're going to take back this open source Creative Commons license that we gave out to people, such as that Ethereum based game, such as the other private server people, Uplift, and even Mindtest. If you don't know about Mindtest is another open source version of Minecraft, right? If they decided to be like, well, we're going to take this one back and then we're going to give you this new version, and in this new version we are going to have it where yes, you have to give us X amount of your profit that you make in revenue, or you have to if depending on the size of or how many, let's say, worlds or servers that you use within whatever your brand is, you have to pay us individually for each one of those. Like, it could get down to the whole thing of even words. Like, you can't use the word portal. You can't use. It can get really gritty and like grimy as far as how far down you can go to say, well, we can make money off of this thing because we quote own it. And when you start splitting hairs about certain types, certain word usage, or even if you talk about like certain scenes, or even in just the design aesthetic of Minecraft, right? Because Sandbox is built, I think, on the same setup of the voxel style. And so if Microsoft really got a stick up their butt one day and decided to really push hard on that, I really wonder how many people in Sandbox would like actually argue that back, or how many people in just like that style of metaverses would argue back. Again, this is just a where we are now. And if you look at how generally the tech industry plays, it doesn't matter what actual sector or vertical you're in. Most of the time, when one company implements a new policy or a new type of terms of service, if the other companies see that they're able to either maintain their business model, or they're able generally to maintain their user base, or they go up, guess what happens? It's going to be a copy and paste all around the place. So I would argue, and I think me and 3D have had enough back and forth about this now, where it's like, if this plays over, let's say, into the summertime, like if Hasbro and WoC happen to like just lay low until the summertime and then like try to reintroduce this again, I don't know if the fever will be the same as it is right now, because I guess more so like because of how they try to do it. You get what I'm saying, 3D?
Yeah, like right now, what happened when they did what they did, there was a backlash, but like we've seen backlashes online before, but not like this. This time it wasn't like end users like me and you actually backlashing because we were, but I mean like the people who would have been paying the most amount of money in these royalties were backlashing. The big entities that basically support the ability of D&D existing. And then D&D's revenue model comes from books and some service called D&D Beyond. And basically, thousands of people started dropping out of D&D Beyond, but not nearly as big of like a number of people as we saw with like the PayPal backlash or the Minecraft backlash or anything like that. But the people who did were just the right ones. So yeah, if they wait and then silently release an update later, no one will know. The reason why people are throwing a fit right now is because we know that there's about to be a TV show coming out with the D&D name, and we do know like Demogorgon on Stranger Things didn't get D&D didn't get any money from them using that name, so they're like, this is a way to get this happening. So a lot of people who are like, they build in the space, they were getting ready to produce stuff so they could catch on the hype of the new TV show, try to earn some money. So if D&D waits till that show comes out and then does it, they're going to be able to retroactively go back because the date set in the already established contract is in this month. You have to have stuff released before the end of this month, and it can't be static. Those are two big problems. So people will just kind of forget after the show's out, after everybody made their pump of money, they're going to forget to keep looking at the stuff, and then it's just going to be released. The only reason why we even knew about this time is it got leaked to people. They were basically trying to get people to sign up early who had extremely large revenue shares with them. Like they pay a lot of royalties already. They were basically offering them a slightly lower deal to get in now. And almost all of those people they contacted were some of the people backlashing. Like that's actually the reason why this leak even happened. And if this leak never happened, basically everything made as of like sometime last week would have been under this license now. And so something that a lot of people don't think about is like a lot of our metaverse games, there are more Dungeons and Dragons style metaverse games coming out and NFT games coming out, And there's specific language in the new OGL that specifically mention NFTs, video games, TV, metaverses. When they said metaverses, they I think they said parallels or something like that. They meant more than just metaverses. But even like if you do fan fiction, if you write a fan fiction about a game or something, like I used to play D&D all the time, and I would write blogs in the style of my character to tell people what I was doing in the, when we had our game or whatever, because the games were private, and so that was my way of telling my friends and stuff, hey, this is what we did that day. And even my wife has been to some of these with me, like back when we first started dating, like over 12 years ago and stuff. So it's like these are common things, and it's obvious the Dungeons and Dragons WoC knows their user base. They know people are doing this, and they already have a program right now where you can go join this program and pay your royalties automatically. But that wasn't good enough for them. They wanted more.
So, as y'all hear at this point, what we're saying is it's about the business that you can build, or better to say, it is about the revenue model. No matter what type of business you have, this type of open creative for-profit licensing agreement, it broadens across any actual sector. You have a product of some kind of physical thing, not physical thing, but like you have a focused physical product, and you have your core IP things about it, and you basically just say, hey, we'll open it up to the community and the market, and then we'll see what they come up with. And based on that, two things happen. One is, if they do good, we make money. And then the other part of it is, it expands the brand awareness of our business. And it also means that you then have to spend less money on in-house production of new shit. Which was funny. I heard a lot of people mention that. They were like, yo, like, what is Dungeons and Dragons as the original company? What's he done in the last 20 years? Everything has been more about the third-party creators, which arguably in the metaverse, in this whole blockchain crypto space, that is what you can see happen, where you have the let's say the parent company basically give you all of the tools that you would need to start your own version of a metaverse, and it's open source to anybody. Like, you said it earlier, bro, like the level of like R&D that you would get out of that, because of the number of like permutations and iterations that you can get to happen, like when you open it out to your community. If y'all remember what 2021 was like and 2020 was like when yield farming came into play, yield farming was moving at lightning speed. Why? Because the code was all open source, and people were just going left and right, coming up with their own little tweaks and variations, and going through rapid trial and iteration development. I think to a degree that can happen with this, with a variation of the OGL in other areas, and particularly in the metaverse space. Go ahead.
So I just want to point out two things. How many of your phones have a headphone jack? If you don't have a headphone jack, go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe. Go ahead and put up a clap or something. Put F in the chat for respects, because you can thank Apple for stealing that opportunity from you. Apple didn't actually suffer from removing headphone jacks, but other companies that then later followed suit did. And like, for example, OnePlus actually reversed it, and some of the ones that came out, like I know last year, have a headphone jack. Like I'm on a OnePlus right now, produced after the headphone jacks disappeared. I have a headphone jack. The OnePlus phone I had before this didn't have a headphone jack, and that just shows that they suffered enough. They had to change things, but for a lot of these companies, they won't suffer at all. So what happens when you start making some profit from selling your NFTs on Spatial or on Cyber, and then you're a year and a half into it and it's become like a regular thing. People know that you do this and stuff, and it's almost like, this is the way you're making your revenue, and maybe you're starting to build a business behind it or around it, and the on cyber or spatial comes up to you and says, oh, you know what? We need 25% of all the money you revenued, not your profit, your revenue, which could potentially be much higher than your profit. You might not even have the amount of money they're asking for. What happened? You just lost boom, you're done. Either you got to go through court and potentially spend even more money to keep what you have, or you have to tell them, sorry, I don't have that kind of money, drop everything, and then wait for them to sue you.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I forgot who it was I was listening to. It's a pair, and they were doing like a Jay and Silent Bob thing.
Line and stick tip.
I think so. And then he was like, so he gave the example of in relation to this like OGL situation. He was like, so how does this work, right? If I'm a cosplay person and then I happen to be in somebody's video who makes profit from their video, who are you suing? Is it going to be the guy or the person who made that video and made profit? Or are you going to get me because I dressed up as the character? Even though I didn't make anything from the video itself. I was just in one of the characters as a cosplay person. Like, how does this even work for, like, when they were explaining, when he was like giving like that scenario, and then he gave another one that was like really fucking hilarious too, but like how would you deal with that? But like putting it into Comic-Cons, putting it into those type of conventions in relation to the whole D&G fantasy, fairy thing world, like how do you deal with, like, you want to, like, where does the well, we need to make money stop? Or does it even have to stop? Because, like, I remember somebody said, who was it? I forgot who it was, but it was something along the lines about like how capitalism like knows no bounds or something like that. So like, you could basically sell anything. And then like when you look at the world that we live in, we fucking sell water, we sell air, you know what I'm saying? Like we we sell hope, we sell hate, we sell any and everything that someone can find a way to make a monetary gain on. We sell it. So it's like, arguably, in the business world, are they wrong for doing this? And would other companies be wrong for following this particular model?
Bro, I don't think they're wrong for doing this. Like, the thing that I think is the 2 points that I would say they are in the wrong for is they have originally said the original OGL could not be revoked. And they're not revoking it, but they're denying full access to it, period. That should not have ever been done, because even when the people who created it originally said it was for the people, not for them, and they should keep that one in that retrospect. But that also means that people should be able to still use it. It's a license that exists. It should be usable, not completely denied access in any form, even to new content. The second thing I think they're doing wrong is some of the terminologies that they're going for. Like if it was just creatures they invented, lands they created, sure. But even the last, I think 1 or 2 manual book sets that they release every so many years, their new edition, like 5E and 4B, I think it was, they didn't even produce those books. Everything in those books came from the community. And then they just basically put their name on it and took a cut of the revenue. Like, they didn't even have anything to do with the production, the producing. Any bit of it has nothing to do with them. Like, you go into the 5E book and look in the credits, and they're in there, but all the other people, if you start searching them up, you're going to realize all the other people in there are just, they are people in the space. They don't work for Wizards of the Coast. They don't work for Hasbro. They don't work for D&D. And so technically, in my mind, is they don't deserve rights to that kind of stuff because they actually had nothing to do with it. Now, if they was to say, look, you can't use the D&D, you can't use the dragon logo that's been invented for us, or there's 6 of them that's been invented for them. Sure, that would make sense. But they are basically monetizing the labor of someone else to help the brand awareness of it. Because if they had never released that first OGL, D&D would have died in the like 93 to 96 era where everybody was trying to kill it because it has devils and demons and satanic stuff and all this other medieval style stuff. It would have died then if it wasn't for the OGL. And so what I'm saying is, like, if they continue on the way they wanted the OGL2, they're going to kill themselves. The only way you're going to know about Dungeons and Dragons is you're going to see stuff on TV that says something about D&D or has dragon, but you won't actually hear about it. And for a lot of people in the normal space, they don't ever hear about Dungeons and Dragons. Like, when you pointed out to me that this thing was going on, I was actually a little bit in shock and awe that they were still producing manual scripts and manual books, and because Pathfinder, is like a 10 times better version, and then there's a bunch of other ones. But I have to also admit, this whole scenario caused innovation. It caused people to almost decentralize the tabletop gaming systems now.
Okay, on that note, you gave me the great segue, bro. I want to definitely like clap hands. I wish I knew. I wish there was a sound thing that I could do right now for this. Like, I'm dead
You
ass.
need an iPhone for that.
I'm not running on an iPhone for this. That's like, I gotta go look. I'm gonna have to go look for it. But nonetheless, I want to give a shout out and like a salute to 3D, because the other day he hits me up and he's like, yeah, so I made this thing. It's the ICS, and I was like, what's this? ICS? Okay. And he's like, yeah, you can make a character with it, and you can do this, and this, and this, and this. And I'm like, all right, what is he talking about? So I go and I look. People, I don't think y'all understand how smart this dude is. And I tell him hands down, he's one of the smartest people I know in this space. I don't know how long it took him to make this. All I know is he was able to put together a joint that would work to be able to make a Dungeons and Dragons character on the site that is decentralized in regards to being hosted on IPFS, and you can build the character and based on like all of the metrics and stuff. So like strength, agility, and all of the other things that go into building those types of characters, and you can keep a copy of it digitally. Like, I'm just saying, kudos to this man. I don't think y'all understand like his aptitude, and I be really trying to like get people to understand, like, yo, my guy's working on this thing. Hopefully I can figure out something to like get him more accoutrements for his hard work and his ingenuity. He really is a smart dude, and he can execute. That's the other part of it. Like, he's the thing of we're not just talking shit about like decentralization and like digital sovereignty and economic sovereignty. Like, we're actually doing shit and playing with the tech. I don't know how many times I gotta say that. And like, this dude is creating and breaking and creating and breaking and creating better stuff and new stuff and things that, like, when I try to explain it to other people, they're like, wait, what? You sure he was able to do that? I'm like, yes. I just had to throw that in there because you said the thing that you said. But yeah, and at some point we're going to do a whole video run through and have it on the Metaverses the Other Side, on the YouTube side.